she told her husband she was thinking about suicide and had thoughts of hurting the kids. When he forces his way in, the first thing he sees is blood on the floor in front of a full-length mirror.
What happened to this kid for trying to help a friend is brutal, and we have to warn you, the video is hard to watch. This is 17-year-old Jonathan Lewis, a student from Las Vegas and an aspiring artist. A few days ago, outside of Rancho High School, one of Jonathan's smaller friends was reportedly robbed by a group of teens and then thrown in a trash can. That's when Jonathan stepped in to help, but he was outnumbered. Again, this is hard to watch. The mob of 15 bullies turned on him, severely beating him, while others stood by and filmed it. The group can be seen standing over Jonathan's body, kicking him as he lay on the pavement. Police found him shortly after, bleeding from the head. He was put on life support while doctors tried for days to save his life. But sadly, he died in the hospital. His family started a GoFundMe with plans to start a foundation to address the root causes of youth violence. No arrests have been made so far, but investigators reportedly told the family they plan to charge several students involved in the fight with murder.
Well, it's another sad day in America where these kids right here took a life and all their lives about to be taken because these folks done said that they're going to try them, you know what I'm saying, basically for murder. So, that just let you know, man, these teens was getting out of control. I know when I was a teenager, I never had these type of, you know what I'm saying, circumstances where they was talking about how crazy gun violence was and all this other stuff, you know, of teens. And it's like nowadays, things is getting wild and wild and wild.
She told her husband she was thinking about suicide and had thoughts of hurting the kids. When he forces his way in, the first thing he sees is blood on the floor in front of a full-length mirror. Lindsay always wanted a lot of kids, a baseball team's worth. Then her daughter Cora came along. 2 years later, she had Dawson, and then on May 26, 2022, Callan came into the world. Her children were Lindsay's whole life. She worked as a delivery nurse at Massachusetts General Hospital and became the go-to source of motherhood advice for her friends. The Clancys were the quintessential loving young family. The morning of January 24th starts like any other day in a parent's week. Lindsay takes 5-year-old Cora to the pediatrician for an appointment. When they get home, she bundles up 3-year-old Dawson and they all go out to play in the snow. It all seems picture perfect, but it's at this point that prosecutors say Lindsay set in motion a series of calculated events that would ultimately destroy her family and shake the entire community to their core. At 4:02 p.m., Lindsay allegedly used her phone to do a little research. It all seems innocent enough. She Googled kids Miralax, and then she looked up takeout 3V. Right after that, the prosecution says she pulled up Apple Maps to find out how long it would take someone to drive from her home in Duxbury to the 3V restaurant in Plymouth. After that, she called a local CVS pharmacy and spoke to the manager, asking if they had kids Miralax. They didn't, but they told her that they had other similar options. At 4:53, Lindsay texts her husband Patrick, "Any chance you want to do takeout from 3V? I didn't cook anything. It's been a long day." Patrick was downstairs working in his basement office. At 5:10, Lindsay calls 3V and places their order for pickup. A Mediterranean power bowl for her, the scallop and pork belly risotto for him. Patrick leaves the house at 5:15. On his way to the car, he gets another text from Lindsay to go by CVS and pick up kids' stool softener. At 5:33, he calls his wife. He's at CVS, but he isn't exactly sure what to get. But Lindsay doesn't answer. About a minute later, she calls him back and tells him what type of stool softener to buy. She sounds like he caught her in the middle of something, according to what Patrick later tells police. But other than that, the 14-second conversation is normal. From there, he heads to the restaurant to pick up their food. By 5:45, he's on his way home. He walks in the door a little after 6, but the house feels empty. No sign of Lindsay or the kids. At the end of December, she told her husband she was thinking about suicide and had thoughts of hurting the kids, according to her husband's statement to police. So on New Year's Day, 2023, Lindsay checks herself into a psychiatric hospital.
Now that's when you know something is wrong, when you check yourself into a place like that to get the help that you properly need. Unfortunately, we heard what happened, what was found, a crazy scene. This is somebody new that I'm checking out her stories. This was her first story, I'm assuming, that I'm checking out of her, unless, I don't know, I heard a lot of different voices, but she got a real familiar voice. so I would have known if I heard her voice or not. But anyway, this is my first time checking her stories out, and this is crazy, man.
In Massachusetts. She leaves on January 5th with no indication she was a danger to herself or the kids, according to the prosecution. Patrick later tells police that Lindsay had been having one of her best days, or so it seemed, because when he gets home and finds the house eerily silent, he also finds the door to their bedroom locked. When he forces his way in, the first thing he sees is blood on the floor in front of a full-length mirror. The second thing is the open window. He runs downstairs and out the door, where he finds Lindsay on the back lawn. Her wrists and neck appear to be cut, but he tells 911 that she doesn't appear to still be actively bleeding. Cora and Dawson are pronounced dead at the hospital. Callan is brain dead, but he clings to life at the hospital until January 27th. The mother survives with broken bones in her back and ribs, but she'll never walk again. Her defense says an over-medication of prescription psychiatric drugs led to homicidal and suicidal ideation. From her hospital bed, she told her husband that she'd been hearing voices. On that terrible night, she says she heard a man's voice in her head telling her to kill the kids and herself because it was her last chance. But prosecutors tell a different story. They point out that Lindsay seemed to be doing better in the days and weeks before this happened. Well, prosecutors say that she was in her right mind when she made a plan and carried it out. Her defense says no, it was not planned. It was a result of mental illness. And her husband, who she seems to be still married to, says the real Lindsay was generously loving and caring towards everyone. Me, our kids, family, friends, her patients. The very fibers of her are loving. And all I wish for her now is that she can somehow find peace. In September 2023, she was indicted on murder and strangulation charges.
Well, there you have it right there. They don't believe she telling the truth that she was having a mental episode because she was doing so well before. And, you know, I'm not one of them type of people. I mean, maybe they test indicated that she's lying. I don't know. I'm not the one who's fabricated to make these tests to let people know if they telling the truth or not. I just know if you did something like this, you should automatically be guilty because, for one, you don't control nothing. You don't have those type of high powers. And two, these are your kids.